everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Injustice for All with Judge Joe Brown. How are you, Judge?
I'm managing.
Well, Trump is getting a lot of backlash because he did an interview with Laura Ingraham of Fox News, and he was talking about the H-1B visa. Now, we know that he put $100,000 fee on H-1B visas. However, he is now saying that we need H-1B visa workers and students. And so MAGA and a whole bunch of other Americans are upset because technically there are a lot of cons to H-1B visas to where, yes, they are taking up jobs that could be going to qualified Americans. But Trump is saying that we don't have enough talented people.
Are you going ahead and suing the BBC?
Well, I guess I have to. Why not? Because they defrauded the public, and they've admitted it. And their top echelon,
Director General and the CEO,
this is
resigned.
Within one of our great allies. This is supposedly our great ally, BBC. The government has a chunk of that one, I guess. But that's a pretty sad event. They actually changed my January 6th speech, which was a beautiful speech, which was a very calming speech, and they made it sound radical. And they actually changed it. What they did was rather incredible. They're showing me the results later on, the results of what they did, how they butchered it up. But it was very dishonest, and the head man quit, and a lot of the other people
We're actually going to play it right now.
We're going to walk down to the Capitol, and I'll be there with you. And we fight. We fight like hell. And if you don't fight like hell, you're not going to have a country anymore. And after this, we're going to walk down, and I'll be there with you. We're going to walk down. We're going to walk down. Anyone you want, but I think right here we're going to walk down to the Capitol and we're going to cheer on our brave senators and congressmen and women, and we're probably not going to be cheering so much for some of them.
But tonight you are saying to our viewers that you will go forward and file a defamation lawsuit against the BBC.
Well, I think I have an obligation to do it because you can't allow people to do that. I couldn't allow 60 Minutes. We settled that one for many millions of dollars, and I couldn't have allowed that to take place. They changed the answer that Kamala gave. They took out the entire answer and they put another answer in. The first answer was election defying. The second answer was not good, but it wasn't a disaster. And they actually did that. They never did it with me.
Which Democrat should Republicans be most worried about going forward in 2028, perhaps?
Well, I wouldn't want to say, because that gives that person an immediate boost. It's like when they say, are you going to attack Venezuela? Are you going to attack this one? Are you going to attack? Yeah. I say, I'm not going to tell you whether or not I am. So I don't want to really give you. But I think this. We are doing phenomenally well. This is the greatest economy we've ever had. Their talking points, course are high. By the way, the only thing is beef.
Coffee
is a little high because the ranchers are doing great. Coffee, we're going to lower some tariffs. We're going to have some coffee come in. We're going to take care of all this stuff very quickly, very easily. It's surgical. It's beautiful to watch. But our costs are way lower. Now, Walmart came out with a statement that they do every year for many, many decades. And they said that a Thanksgiving meal costs 25% less this Thanksgiving, coming up, think of that, than it did last Thanksgiving under Sleepy Joe Biden. That's a 25% reduction. I think that's right. And if you remember when I first came in, the first 2 days I had a news conference, eggs, they were hitting me with eggs. Eggs had quadrupled in price. And they're screaming at me. They say, I just got here. I didn't know about eggs. And Brooke Rollins, our agricultural commissioner, secretary, did a great job. And now eggs are what they were. We got eggs down. We get it all down. But our prices are much lower. Their line is price is affordability. That's the new word, affordability. It's much less expensive under Trump. And I haven't been here long. 9 months is not a long time. But look at what I've done to energy. Look at the price of gasoline. Going from $4.50 to $2.50 or $2.70, it's going to be $2 gasoline.
People want affordable.
Well, the economy is my thing, and we have the greatest economy in history.
Are Republicans not selling it enough?
Yes, the Republicans don't talk about it.
So they need to do a better job
Yeah.
on Capitol Hill of
The Democrats
of counting.
give false talk, and the Republicans, and I say it all the time, Republicans have to talk about the fact that prices are down. The Walmart thing is very important. When Walmart says a Thanksgiving meal costs 25% less under Trump than under Biden, I mean, to me, that's better than.
So Republicans need to spend more time talking about how great the country is and less time complaining about the Democrats?
We have potentially the greatest economy in the history of our country. We have, again, Biden did in just a short period of time. Biden couldn't raise anything. No investment. I think investment went out of our country. I'm now at almost $18 trillion in 9 months. That's the biggest in the history of the world. China's never done it, never done anywhere near that. And all that money is coming in. It's investment. It's building auto plants. It's building AI plants. By the way, we're leading China by a lot on AI. We have potentially the greatest, already it is. But we have, when these things open up, there's never going to be a country like what we have right now.
And does that
mean
the
Republicans have to talk about it, Laura.
And does that mean the H-1B visa thing will not be a big priority for your administration? Because if you want.
All right. So can you just talk to the first part of this clip before I play the H1? Just speak to when he was talking about the economy and January 6th speech, suing BBC.
Well, what's going on is essentially you had an administration in place that did not have any viable expertise in the economy, and they were dead set on pushing an agenda rather than practical governance. So the economy had gone to hell. There was no big picture that was being looked at and no big plan that was in place. It was all ad hoc, deal with this, deal with that. And who knows what the overall impact is supposed to be. Nobody cares because you want to push that agenda, and it didn't work. So things got expensive. Inflation has gotten absolutely ridiculous. And we now have a better situation going and a rational approach to what to do with the big picture economy. Like if you're running a household budget, you can't run it just off of the price of bread. You have other stuff that you have to buy in order to make the household work. So if you don't accommodate the entirety of what you have to go buy, acquire, put on the floor, put in the sinks to keep things working, then you're not running much of a household budget.
Okay. Well, I'm going to play the second part of this clip where he gets into the H-1B visas. And this is where a whole lot of people are pushing back against him on.
Want to raise wages for American workers, you can't flood the country with tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of foreign workers.
You also do have to bring in talent.
We have plenty of talented people here.
No, you don't.
We don't have talented people here?
No, you don't have certain talents, and people have to learn. You can't take people off an unemployment line and say, I'm going to put you into a factory where we're going to make missiles, or I'm going to put
How did we ever do it before?
Well, I'll give you an example. In Georgia, they raided because they wanted illegal immigrants out. They had people from South Korea that made batteries all their lives. Making batteries are very complicated. It's not an easy thing and very dangerous. A lot of explosions, a lot of problems. They had like 500 or 600 people, early stages, to make batteries and to teach people how to do it. Well, they wanted them to get out of the country. You're going to need that, Laura. I mean, I know you and I disagree on this. You can't just say, a country's coming in, going to invest $10 billion to build a plant, and going to take people off an unemployment line who haven't worked in 5 years, and they're going to start making missiles. It doesn't work that way.
Hey, Sean.
Can I explain what he's talking about?
Sure.
I've got this cup. On it, representation of Star Wars, all right? Outer space, space travel. Faster than light. Warp 1. Warp 2, Mr. Scotty. Engage. All right, we do Star Trek. But physicists do have an idea that we can actually do warp 1, warp 2, warp 3, all the way up to fantastical warp 11, which runs into some limits at that point. Why? Because there was a Jew that got run out of Germany by the Nazis rising to power, and his name was Albert Einstein, and he came up with general theories of relativity, the general theory of relativity, and he wrote FDR the letter saying, hey, some of my fellow colleagues over in Germany are working on this super powerful bomb, an atom bomb, using what I came up with in general relativity, and you ought to get on it. And we had the Manhattan Project, and we dropped the bomb on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and World War II ended. Then we had a Cold War, and there was another German. He was a Nazi. His name was Werner von Braun. Von Braun. And he came on over under Operation Paperclip, and he gave us Atlas and Titan, intercontinental ballistic missiles, Apollo going to the moon, Trident missiles, and so on. And we stayed on top of the world game because we maintained our status as a world military power. That's two people that are brought in under this very same program. And if you can afford to pay the premium cost to get in of $100,000, you're on a level where you don't have much competition in the market. It's not a matter of going out and saying, hey, we've got all these jobs, come on, put in an application. This is for a very select crowd. And to be able to afford this $100,000 that is going to be the fee, you are top 98th percentile, and you aren't displacing anybody of a job. You are fulfilling stuff that there are few people in the world that can deal with. And that's why we had immigration policy designed to encourage people who would contribute to the overall good. That's exactly what he's talking about. Now, because there are people who in their ignorance and their lack of intelligence, their lack of information, their lack of comprehension of what's going on, they get upset because of the way it sounds. We're displacing Americans from jobs. And that's what this news reporter is doing. But the truth of the matter is there are no jobs being displaced because there are few people that can do these things. And not only that, the type of people that are anticipated with this particular proposal are going to invent things that nobody's thought of doing. So, yeah, why not? Let's stay on top of the game where we get the best and the brightest. That's how the game works. See, humanity did not advance from cave to condominium because all of these people just thought up something. It was over the eons, there were these very bright people who had something that 99.99% of the human race lacked. And they were able to come up with things that have gotten us so we can have microwaves and cell phones and thermostats and automobiles and 747s and spaceships and F-22s and M1 tanks and all sorts of things that we enjoy. And that wasn't everybody. That was a select few. So we're trying to bring in as many of that select few as we can, which will help out everybody. Now, that's the beginning and the end of it. We're getting into top tier people who can do stuff that other humans cannot do.
And you know they're top tier because they just dropped $100K to come over here.
Yeah, in other words, pay the cost to be the boss. You pay the price of admission. You want to go see a Beyonce concert, you either bootleg it or you be able to afford the ticket.
That's true, honey, because we do not do bootleg for the Beehive. No, we do not.
Yeah, well, you're a fan, but you know how much the tickets cost. And if you want to see a live Beyonce concert,
Save
you
your
don't
coin.
get it unless you can pay for it.
Right.
And remember, bullshit walks, money talks.
Well, I want to bring this into the fold because he also said this 24-second clip about HBCUs and H-1B visas keeping them in business, which I kind of disagree with, but take a listen.
They fans
You would have the
fans of the United
historically,
States.
yeah, but you would have, as you know, historically, black colleges and universities would all be out of business. You would have a system of colleges and universities would
So
go
we're
down the
dependent on
tubes.
China to keep
No,
our
not
university
China,
system
but
going?
I think it's good to have. I actually think it's good to have outside countries. Look, I want to be able to get along with the
They're
world.
not the French. They fans
You
of
would have the.
So did
Look, HBCUs, have you been to Howard's campus lately?
no.
You've been to Morehouse, Spelman, and Clark all on the same campus, but three separate college universities. You been there lately?
No.
Go and take a look at them, and you'll see exactly what he's talking about. Now,
So quick
as I
question on that.
said,
Just quick question on that one, real quick. So because historical black colleges been around for some centuries, but how did it get from predominantly black Americans to him making that comment to saying, well, HBCUs need these H-1B students because I'm pretty sure they're paying cash. Like, how do we get to that?
well, that's why I said take a look at them. You look at the student body, and you walk in, and there's an assembly, and you see a whole bunch of girls and very few boys, and you want to know why the boys aren't there, and then you find out that's almost all the boys in the school. So there are no males in these institutions. Second thing is you start seeing a lot of foreign people there because they're taking advantage of the situation, and somebody else, man, I don't see no reason why I got to go to college, man. There ain't nothing to it, man. I'm gonna rap, man. That's how I'm gonna get my ducats, man. You know, and where does that lead you? It's the ideation. And if you want to get the grip on it, just imagine the NFL. How many football teams do you have in the NFL? Bunch, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what the detractors are talking about is an NFL team should only draft from the city where the team is located. Now, how would that work? It wouldn't.
I see what you're saying.
In other words, you draft wherever you can find the talent. That's all this is a draft. In other words, wherever we can find the talent anywhere in the world, come on in. If you're talking NFL, wherever they can find the talent, they say, come on in, we're drafting you for our number 1, number 2, number 10 draft pick. Or the NBA. Remember the tall Chinese guy that they had playing in the NBA that was 6'9", and he's from the People's Republic of China, and he was donating 2/3 of his pay back to the People's Republic. See, they didn't do that. Baseball, you go to a baseball game now, and it's major league. A lot of the players you see out on the field are not American. They're from Cuba. They're from Japan.
That's another great point.
Yeah, so you recruit where you can get the talent.
And let me just add on to that. Baseball was very popular in the black community at one point, and it's on a drastic decline if it's still existing at all. And it's really because of the community not investing into baseball sports for Little League. My son was in a baseball Little League. It didn't last long because that program just dispersed. And if you're not investing, so let's just equate that to education with boys, black boys. If you're not investing in the youth to, in education to push them into universities or HBCUs, if you're not doing an investment into our youth, then you're going to see the decline, which means you're going to have to outsource to bring in to replace what you're not investing in, basically.
Well, one of the
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, but one of the other problems with why you don't see black baseball players is there's nowhere for the youth to play. The other thing is it's a dull, boring game that'll put you to sleep. And basically, what you do is for 3 or 4 hours, you watch the catcher and the pitcher toss the ball back to each other and spit. And every now and then, somebody walks to first base. And after sitting there for a boring 35 minutes, somebody hits the ball and they get thrown out at first. The next somebody strikes out, next somebody strikes out, somebody does a pop fly, and that's an hour later. And you still haven't gotten out of the inning. It's dull.
It could be dull, but
Yeah.
it's more like a slow pace, chill
Yeah,
out.
and who cares? And if you want to get a dull game, see the baseball
The
came
baseball
from,
players get paid a whole bunch of money for
yeah, I
dull.
know, but it came from cricket. And if you want to see the dullest thing in your life, watch challenge match that goes on for 3 days and the players are sleeping on cots. So when somebody decides literally to wake up and get through with his nap because it's 2 o'clock in the morning, they rouse somebody else who's going to pitch. And if he gets a hit, then he has the option of running the bases or declining. And that is as dull as it gets. So the other problem is baseball requires a field. And it is deemed to be rather dangerous today with this hard object being thrown and might hit somebody in the face or the head. And also where you would usually have a playground where the kids can play baseball, those are dangerous places to go because the Democrats who run the urban areas have not have not kept them safe places, and it's dangerous for your kid to be out there on a park unless you go out and watch them play the game, which means you are off work, likely as not, and they don't get a chance to practice. Basketball, you can put that up in somebody's backyard and put a basket on the garage or something like that, or on a wall, or in the playground where there's this small amount of space. So basketball picks up. Football, it's still done in schools, and people come in and they get a chance in high school to play football and you get some raw talent. But you don't have these opportunities in baseball because you don't let them play out in the streets anymore. That's a hazard to their health. And my God, one of them might get bumped by a car. So you don't want that. So we cut down on the places where they can play baseball, whereas in Japan, it's still safe to play baseball in a park, but not here. You'll get shot by the local posse,
Okay. Well,
And
I want to swing back to the H-1B. I don't want to go too far into the baseball.
I mean, that's your thing. It's just a side comment. Sorry,
Right.
digressing, but it's just our country now.
So, but people are upset because, they feel as though President Trump changed his tune on H-1B visas, because even in his first term when he was running for presidency, he was hard on H-1B visas. I just want to play 2 little quick clips on that.
Go ahead.
President, there's been some debate within your orbit over whether or not to keep or eliminate H-1B visas. What's your position on that? Do you want to keep H-1Bs or do you want to get rid of them?
I like both sides of the argument, but I also like very competent people coming into our country, even if that involves them training and helping other people that may not have the qualifications they do. But I don't want to stop. And I'm not just talking about engineers. I'm talking about people at all levels. We want competent people coming into our country. And HB1, I know the program very well. I use the program. Maitre d's, wine, experts, even waiters, high quality waiters. You got to get the best people. Now, then you go into people like Larry, and he needs engineers, and Massa needs, and this gentleman needs engineers like nobody's ever needed engineers, right? So we have to have the quality people coming in. Now, go ahead.
President.
Thing that I the H-1B very well, and it's something that I frankly use, and I shouldn't be allowed to use. We shouldn't have it. Very, very bad for workers. And second of all, I think it's very important to say, well, I'm a businessman and I have to do what I have to do, and it's sitting there waiting for you, but it's very bad. It's very bad for business in terms of, it's very bad for our workers, and it's unfair for our workers, and we should end it.
All I got to say is, it's been, since he made that remark, it's been 5, 6, 7, 8 years. So circumstances change. Remember, in 8 years, 1945, the Soviet Union was an ally of the United States. Add 8 years onto that, and you get 1953, and the Soviet enemy is our deadliest foe. The Soviet Union is our deadliest foe, and everybody is worried about who's going to order their strategic bombers to go nuke somebody else's cities. Things can change. Or 8 years after 1945, when Nagasaki and Hiroshima occurred and Japan got defeated, they became our biggest market and our closest ally. So things can change. You don't have to be stagnant and blockheaded because you have some ideology that makes you inflexible when it comes to dealing with the real world and the circumstances attendant upon that and the change that happens all the time. So, yeah, let him change. Shows flexibility in that he's not dogmatic about stuff. He is a practical businessman who understands the art of the deal. That's the basis for politics, diplomacy, and warfare, and economics.
Well, I want to move on to the Epstein emails because the Democrats released some of the Epstein emails. And, because they're petty. And, listen, the Democrat shutdown is over after 47 days. It passed the Senate now. It passed the House yesterday. And it's so funny because that's when the Democrats want to release some of the Epstein emails yesterday.
Well, what's funny about that whole thing? What they settled on yesterday is exactly what they got offered 46 days ago. Before that, 47 days ago. So they stonewalled it. The Democratic Party was holding the American public hostage, blackmailing them into making crime pay. In other words, it's a criminal act to crash the American border. So what the hang-up was not Obamacare generally. It was the specific provision that allowed free health care to illegals who shouldn't even be here, except for the fact that they're criminals who broke the law getting here. And the other one was not associated with Obamacare. It was within the social safety net structure of giving up to $5,000 a month to a family of 4 illegals who are breaking the law, who are criminals by being here. And see, that's what we were being held up for. Blackmail by the Democratic Party, selfishly saying we'll shut down the government because they won't let us bring not these people that are at the top who come in and follow the rules and contribute. We're here because we want to stuff the roads in California in the next census, in Illinois, in Michigan, in New Jersey, and various other places in New York, so we can pick up congressional representation in the House, and we can stuff our far left agenda through because we will have more people to vote for them, to make D.C. a state and let a moderate-sized town have the same political influence as an entire state, 2 senators and 2 congressmen, and do what? To support their particular weirded out social agenda, so they have debates on how much facial hair you can have and still get to use girls' bathrooms.
Well, I think that's a very safe bet, Sean. And I also think that tonight, President Trump's going to be very clear. The Democrats got nothing, Sean. They got nothing. Chuck Schumer went to the wall and lost. Hakeem Jeffries went to the wall and lost. Because at the end of the day, they could not convince Americans that we should shut down the government to fund their pet programs, to fund free benefits for illegal aliens, to fund health care for people who shouldn't even be in this country. What's terrifying, though, Sean, to keep hitting on this theme, is that the moderates have been driven out of the Democrat Party. Manchin is gone. Sinema is gone. And everyone in that party understands that if they don't toe the line with the leftists, they'll be driven out too. So we, as a country, we don't have a mainstream Democrat Party. We don't have a moderate Democrat Party. We have a party of crazies and lunatics and radical leftists and open borders nut jobs. That's bad for America. It's bad for the American people. It's bad for the world, Sean.
Here, here. I agree 100% with that. You're opening up the borders, and you have Al Qaeda, ISIS, you have Hamas, they hate us. You've got Iran, who hates us. You've got North Korea, who grins at us inscrutably and hates us. And you've got the People's Republic of China that is talking about, let us recover our investments and work this for all of the money we can bring in to our own economy. And you got the borders wide open. And these folk don't need B1s, B2s, B21s on the way in, and B52s still here, and F22s, F35s, and various delivery systems. They can walk right across the border with the stuff in a backpack. Nobody's checked them, and they can go wherever they want to. And likely as not, the government gave them the free transportation there. They can plant the military-grade explosives anywhere they want to plant them, and they don't have to be suicide bombers anymore or fly 4 airplanes into the Twin Towers in the Pentagon or crash into a field and self-sacrifice. They just flip the switch and boom, boom, it's gone, and 911 looks like a little circus. So
Well,
it's so amazing. And then see, the other thing, the general climate of lawlessness certainly is made worse when it starts at the top. Title 8, Section 1324 of the United States Criminal Codes makes what they're doing, setting up sanctuary cities, aiding, abetting, giving advice, counsel, procuring assistance, shielding from apprehension, detention, and deportation, to give aid to. All of that is felonious. And every one of these Democrats who is advocating, assisting with that, should be doing federal jail time.
Well, I want to swing to the Epstein files because, like I said, the Democrats released some of the emails. And I want to bring in Jasmine Crockett because she started going on her media tour trying to implement Trump with the Epstein files, and she got fact-checked live on air.
She's an idiot from Memphis. She went to school here at Rhodes College.
Out to you from these emails that were publicly released by the committee today?
Yeah, so number one, it is clear that he knew what was going on, which I think that he's kind of alluded to that at some point in time because the president said that he was trying to kick Ghislaine out of Mar-a-Lago because it seems like that's where girls were being recruited from based on information that we have. But more importantly is that he was having conversation, he being Jeffrey Epstein, with Michael Wolff, who is writing this book or trying to put together this book. And in real time, as Trump is running for his first presidential run, we hear or we see that he made it clear that he believes that he has leverage over Trump. And he said that a Trump regime would basically open up, this is me paraphrasing, this is not exactly what he said, but basically it'd be a free-for-all. And as we've seen, especially in this second term, it's been a free-for-all where Trump has absolutely pardoned some folk that we know are terrible, and we are waiting on him to pardon Ghislaine Maxwell. I think that that's coming up soon too.
Yeah, an important point indeed. Congresswoman, let's take a closer look at that email from Epstein where he writes to the author Michael Wolff saying this, and it's a direct quote, redacted victim, the name was redacted. Mar-a-Lago, Trump said he asked me to resign, never a member ever. Of course, he knew about the girls as he asked Ghislaine to stop. Obviously, we don't have the full context here, but I'm curious, how do you read this specific email and what it means?
Yeah, I think that it is showing that he was well aware and he was trying to cover his tracks at that point in time. And I think that that's what you saw from Jeffrey. Obviously, It'd be better if we could talk to Jeffrey today, but it was very interesting that ultimately Jeffrey Epstein died sitting in prison during Trump's administration.
We had on Representative Marlon Stutzman earlier. He's a Republican, and he tried to make the case that President Trump is the most investigated person in the world, and he has not been accused of any criminal wrongdoing here. What do you make of that?
Listen, they will do and say anything to cover themselves. You know, I will admit that Donald Trump has been investigated and the normal, but he just happens to be more corrupt and more criminal than any other president than we've had. I will point out he is the only president who has been convicted of 34 felony convictions that we've ever had in the Oval Office. So while we don't know exactly what crimes he may or may not have committed, just think of it this way. If you know that you didn't do anything, then why is it that you would be twisting members of your own party's arms, trying to get them not to release it? This would be exonerating. If you know that you are free and clear, then why not say, you know what, release the files? In fact, he campaigned on releasing the files because he didn't realize that anything that he was involved in whatsoever was involved in the files. But let me tell you something. Another thing that was said in that other email that he had with Michael Wolff was he was talking about if he wants to basically play hardball, we will make mention of the fact that he really has been on the plane, and I don't remember if it mentioned the island.
Let's actually put that email up just so our viewers can fully understand what it says. I just hope the control room can put this email up. It says, I think you should let him hang himself. And this is in response to a question of whether CNN would plan to ask Trump in a town hall about the relationship with Epstein. Epstein said, how do we craft an answer for him? And Michael Wolff says in this email, I think you should let him hang himself. If he says he hasn't been on the plane or to the House, then that gives you a valuable PR and political currency. You can hang him in a way that potentially generates a positive benefit for you. Or if it really looks like he could win, you could save him, generating a debt. Of course, it is possible that when asked, he'll say Jeffrey is a great guy and has gotten a raw deal and is a victim of political correctness, which is to be outlawed in a Trump regime.
Yes.
That's the full email.
Yes, yes, yes. That is clear that Jeffrey Epstein had something to hang over his head. Why else or how else could you have a debt that you are able to? Now, exactly what it was, who knows, right? And that's what we're trying to get to the bottom of. But the fact that Trump does not want these files to be out, to me, says that he has more to hide than him actually being able to exonerate himself.
And then the other email talking about that we used initially, I'm just trying to find that email so I can be really precise here, but it talks about how Epstein is emailing Maxwell saying that Trump was with a victim at his house for several hours. This is an email from April 2nd, 2011. Republicans were saying that that victim is Virginia Giuffre. As you know, she died by suicide. She's been a very outspoken victim of Jeffrey Epstein. Here's the email right here on your screen. She wrote a book, as you know, and she did not accuse him of any wrongdoing. What do you make of that, and can you confirm that?
Yeah, I don't know. Obviously, it's redacted who the victim is, so I won't necessarily take the Republicans' word on who it is that's redacted. And I don't know why they would necessarily redact someone's name who is deceased at this point.
The Democrats did that, though. The Democrats redacted.
No. I understand, but I'm just saying, like, our biggest concern is to actually make sure that we are protecting victims. And obviously, she wrote a book. She told her truth. Whether or not she told everything, who knows? Again, another person that we can't talk to because we have yet another suicide around this. So I think that that's actually one of the things that we should talk about, is that the president has tried to call this all a hoax. I don't think you have this many people dying around a hoax.
Let me say something. Let's start with this. She's supposed to have been a public defender, right? She advertises that. And she says what she says, and any criminal defense lawyer knows good and damn well if you have not even had an appeal of a criminal conviction, that's not something that stands, and it's not going to survive an appeal no more than Tish James' bogus civil suit survived an appeal. And by the way, the latest release is the appellate courts in New York kicked the whole thing and said it was totally bogus and set aside all of the fines and reversed the decision. Now, that's what's going to happen with the 34 charges. Now, Malcolm X famously said, a processed head equals a processed mind. And what I'm thinking of is FAKE, fake. I'm looking at fake hair, fake eyelashes, fake setup. So fake head equals fake mind, and we get fake stuff, fake news, fake report out of fake minds. Now, she was in Memphis. She was at Rhodes College, a nice private, exclusive institution that is far from being street. And she went to a $35,000 a year finishing school before she got to the little private Rhodes College here in Memphis. So she's a little boule heifer who's trying to act like she's street queen. Next thing is, when she was here, she was active in the local Young Democrats, which tends to be a consortium of frustrated, not very attractive lesbians. That's their business, but that's what they are. And they try to push through nonsense that results in a horrendous corruption in this city, where the elected and appointed officials steal worse than the folk in the street. Law and order is completely broken down. That was in her formative years, her late teens and very early 20 something. And that's led to it being the most dangerous city in the United States and the 10th most dangerous place in the world, which has required bringing in state agencies and federal agencies in order to restore peace here. And that's what she's trying to push on the nation. So I'm looking at who said this. And then the other thing is this. I keep using that word, this. The other point, I don't know how many people have told somebody they're good friends with me, they know me, or they're my brother or my cousin or something, and I've never heard of them. And they have no substatus, but they say it. People try to claim celebrity all of the time and claim a relationship with celebrities and important people that they do not have. That's just human nature. So she is a lawyer. She was with the public defender's office. And in my opinion, most public defenders are the best defense lawyers you can find, because most of them do it as a matter of principle rather than as a matter of money. And they have more trial experience, more resources than the typical lawyer is going to have if you go and retain one. But they have a bad rep. And with what she's saying as a former defense lawyer, anybody that had her to represent them is most likely to have been represented by a bogus piece of shit who did not deliver them a proper representation, because what she is saying acts like you get charged with something, you are presumed to have done it, and she ought to know good and damn well that there's a presumption of innocence that says you are innocent until you're proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. And also that reasonable doubt stands when it is on appellate review. So she's a piece of shit for what she says. She's an embarrassment. And I hope when Texas gets through, they have districted her out of existence, because we don't need something like that sitting in the capitals of the United States with a fake head and a fake mind and fake truth.
And
that is bad for the country. And by the way, one further thing. She keeps talking about Donald Trump is the worst this and worst that. He's not the U.S. president who historically has been attacked the most. It's interesting who a dispassionate examination of the American historical record was, in fact, our most attacked president. You know who that was?
Abraham Lincoln.
Abraham Lincoln. So he's in mighty good company.
So one more thing I want to play with her, because she was fact checked in that video, because she said, well, I'm not going to listen to anything the Republicans do by redacting. And the lady said, no, it was the Democrats who actually redacted. And the woman who wrote the book, who committed suicide, apparently, who's no longer here, said Trump had nothing to do with Epstein and the girls or anything like that. So she's
a lying piece of shit, is what it is. And let's put it this way. I am meaning to be very insulting, because when you put yourself in a position of public trust and have a fiduciary responsibility to represent the people that put you in that office with integrity, and you contemplate all of the Americans who've been mutilated, suffered, and died trying to set this system up, when you consider the racism that has been opposed, when you've considered how this country has tried to do right in fits and starts, and then you sit in there and violate your responsibility by coming up with this bullshit, you are a piece of shit. And probably I'll get that fool Judge Mathis saying he had no business calling her a piece of shit. If he'd called my wife a piece of shit, I would be dealing with him. Yeah, fool.
Well, this is not a clip of Jasmine Crockett. This is a clip of them exposing her outrageous spending.
Yeah.
Look like a fly girl. Take a listen.
Broken that we got to keep papering over it.
Right. But then there was this, just switching gears just a little bit. Jasmine Crockett, she's a congresswoman from Houston. She's a lightning rod. She gets a lot of attention, and she brings a lot of attention on herself. Here's some attention on her spending spree. So $75,000 on, which is a big number. She spent $25,000 on luxury hotels and limo services and $50,000 on security services. This is kind of an issue for them and members of Congress, that they don't actually have the ability to have they have to pay for security in some way. She must feel that she needs it.
Yes, I won't knock the security portion of that. It is a dangerous time for elected officials. They need to make sure they're protected. However, the luxury hotels, all of those other amenities that she's giving herself, she's living high off the hog right now. And for a woman who is openly flirting with trying to run for Texas Senate seat against Senator either John Cornyn or whoever comes out of that primary, you are seeing a woman who's not spending an awful lot of time in Texas. That whole list of places she's been living high on the hog, I didn't see anything mentioning Dallas or Houston
Not been in
or
Amarillo.
Laredo or Amarillo. Right. She's all across the country making sure that she is getting taken care of, that her nails look fabulous, and that she is sounding off however she wants to. That's not good for the state.
And she's got security, too. Here she is talking about it just 12 days ago. Watch here.
We need to work on economic policies that will put people into a position in which they are not the working poor, where they are still needing the $6 a day to eat. So, yes, we need to talk about it, but I don't think that SNAP is the problem. I think that that is the resolution, or at least that is a symptom of the problem.
Well, I mean, I don't know how I feel about that, if whether or not that's laced with hypocrisy or not.
I don't know. It's the kind of salady to me. I don't know if I followed the logic.
If she can afford it, fine. I got no argument with that, okay? But if the government shuts down, Congress should not get paid. Period.
Congress should not get paid. And if the FAA is not working, those guys should not be traveling, by the way. If they're on a plane seat in that moment and other people can't get one, it's a bad look. Look, I know Motel 6 isn't the greatest place to stay in the world, but I think for a politician who's out there talking about the working class, live a lifestyle that emulates that just a little bit. I agree, security's great, but staying at the luxury hotels.
Yeah. But I think also, but you guys, like, it's not from her salary. This is from her campaign donations. Right. I think that it's not that she has her salary and it's whatever it is, but it's that you're asking people who work very hard to give you money so that you can help make the case for why you should be running for Senate or something, and then you're spending it on this. And if her donors don't care, that's one thing, but it's why we have these reports so that they can make a decision.
I don't know that the donors even know. That's
why we have the report.
You got to talk about it, exactly.
Yeah, that's not a great way. I mean, a lot of campaigns get in a lot of trouble for misusing donor dollars. It's a very real thing. And so her burning money on the front end of a race on things like luxury hotels, that can continue to beat up on her the rest of the race. And it shows her campaign and herself are not trustworthy stewards of dollars.
Okay, good stuff. All right, guys.
You know what? This is exactly what the Democrats have been doing. Look at Nancy Pelosi. She's gotten filthy rich with allegedly insider trading on a public servant's salary for her whole adult life. So how does she do it if she's honest? She can't. Next thing is fake head, fake mind, fake reality. And you have this heifer doing exactly what you see the Democrats do all over the country. They are elected to positions or appointed to positions that the people depend upon, and what they do is not deliver the good governance. They use their situations and circumstances to rip the people off so they can have a good time and elevate from being wherever they find themselves economically to living like they're wealthy people who have a lot of money and then acquiring a lot of money by stealing from the public. So that's what we're looking at. That's just unconscionable. And meanwhile, I'd put it this way about the Epstein thing. It's interesting when it comes to gossip that used to be on the back page of the last section of a newspaper. It's interesting if it comes to what was on the front page of the National Enquirer, the Globe, the Star, for those with inquiring minds who wanted to deal with gossip. But it doesn't have much of an effect on what happens to you day after tomorrow as a citizen in the United States of America, and it's a distraction. And maybe one of the things that's going on is there might be some indictments coming out of that, and nobody wants to sit there and clutter the situation by putting all of the rumors and innuendo out in the press when it may hit it anyway when a grand jury comes back. So the other thing is so Epstein or anybody else, which turns out not to be the truth, claims to have a connection, that doesn't make it real. That's just trying to get your end going and give yourself a little bit more clout by who you know or you claim you know. So, I mean, for a lawyer who is supposed to have been in front of a criminal court representing defendants accused of crime, this is the attitude of a piece of shit.
Yeah.
And I say that because I've devoted my life to that profession, and I hate it when somebody embarrasses it.
Right. Well, one last thing before we conclude, and justice for all. Real quick, Trump pardons, right? He did a lot of pardons. He pardoned Rudy Giuliani. Among those granted federal pardons were Rudy Giuliani, the former New York mayor, Trump's personal attorney, Mark Meadows, Trump's former White House chief of staff, and several other aides and campaign advisors accused of taking part in efforts to overturn the 2020 election results. In Georgia, the pardons also extended to individuals linked to the so-called alternate electors plan, which sought to certify Trump as the winner despite his loss in the state. Several of those figures were named in the original Fulton County indictment, though they maintained they acted within their legal rights. So according to the former Fulton County prosecutor who spoke to Fox 5 Atlanta, those pardons cover only potential federal exposure, not state level charges. However, the Judge McAfee, he gave Fulton County to November 14th to have a prosecutor replacement for Fannie Willis, and they have not come up with an emplacement. So tomorrow, Friday, November 14th, that Georgia 2020 election interference case will be dismissed.
Yeah. Tomorrow, I've talked to Judge McAfee. He's young, but he is a fine gentleman. He'll go far. He's going to wind up on somebody's appellate court or a Supreme Court or in the governor's mansion in Georgia. He's a very wise young man. He does a lot of work that a lot of judges are too lazy to do. And he calls them as he is supposed to call the shots, objectively, analytically, and critically, free from passion. And that's what's supposed to happen. Now, he gave the state, after they requested a continuance in October until tomorrow, to come up with somebody who would accept an appointment to continue prosecuting these cases against the Trump crew. And so far, every prosecutor in the state has declined. We have a National Socialist Party, the Democratic Party. It has been using the criminal laws of the country to repress political dissent, legitimate political dissent that's been going on for 230 years in this country's history. And that's why we have the Bill of Rights that was ratified in 1791, which was to protect the citizenry from the use of the criminal laws of the country for political repression. It's called lawfare, which is a fairly new term, but it is descriptive. It's the use of the laws for purposes of conducting war upon those who dissent. And America is built on dissent. Whether you're talking about the advancement of civil rights, militancy, political circumstances, or economic theories and programs or military matters, we have absolutely a right to dissent, which is embraced and incorporated in our First Amendment. Now, when somebody starts trying to use the laws of the nation or the country to repress, that becomes evil. And we've seen a national party of socialists do that. In fact, it was known as the National Socialist Workers' Party. The United States is not the only place that has a National Socialist Party. In 1933, one took over Deutschland, otherwise known as Germany, and the acronym in German for National Socialist Workers' Party is represented by the initials NAZI, Nazi. And that's what we have right now, these sanctimonious bastards, these blue jackasses. And by the way, isn't that mascot they have a jackass? Isn't that a donkey? And a proper name for a donkey is jackass. Well, don't the jackasses sit there and start accusing everybody else of being fascist and totalitarian? Well, one of the methods that the Nazis themselves were famous for was flip the script, accuse your opponents of doing what you're doing. And also, we keep hearing this through the news media, which becomes a primary propaganda engine for the American National Socialist Party. And that is keep telling a lie long enough, loud enough, you can get anybody, including the liar, to believe it. Joseph Goebbels, the Nazi minister of propaganda, is famous for preaching about that. So we look at it, and we've got fake head, fake eyelashes, fake get up, Miss Fake with the fake mind reflecting the fake head and the fake statements coming out of the fake mind inside the fake head, Miss Jasmine Coonskin Crockett. And what do you get? You get the American public fed a bunch of lies long and loud by a news media that is in the back pocket of the blue jackass party. And everybody's believing this mess because that's all they hear, but they're waking up. And that's a good thing for the country, for everybody.
Okay. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to another episode of Injustice for All with Judge Joe Brown. Bye.